Welcome to the Sips and Says podcast. We're your host, Amanda.
And Miranda, two bookish besties who love to spill all things dark romance.
So strap in and grab a drink while we spill all the tea on all the sinfully delectable things about dark romance reads. This week's read was such a fun one. This was Escape from Media by Brandy Stoker. And I was surprised by this one. It took me a minute to get into it, but overall, I ended up really liking it.
Yeah, I feel like it's very different than what we've read recently. So it definitely hit like that genre switch.
Yeah, I agree.
Overall, I really liked the story. I found that the intrigue with like the media versus the rebellion was really interesting. Um,
Yeah.
it was definitely giving me like fantasy sci-fi vibes.
Oh, yeah, for sure, for sure. I think at the beginning I was confused if it was like a urban fantasy or if it was like full on fantasy,
Mhm.
brand new world. But then like you get like the little aspects of modern life, like the cell phones,
Yeah,
just the way that the overall media works. What would you say your overall rating for this book was?
I gave it a three. I think
Okay.
that mostly just because I feel like it wasn't in my typical wheelhouse of what I read. But overall, I do think that the author did a really good job of blending that sci-fi urban fantasy together, which I feel like it's very hard to meld those two things together. But I think
Yeah.
it was really well done in this case.
Yeah, you can either mend them together really well or so far away from each other, you
Yeah, they
know?
end up clashing because sci-fi, is more scientific and that where romance
Yeah.
urban fantasy is obviously magic and fantasy. So I think the fact that she was able to take a scientific approach, like the anti-magic and the magic, I think it works really well in this story.
Yeah. And for me, I think I would rate this a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Um, it also, I do read a lot of fantasy and urban fantasy and the sci-fi fantasy, and I still feel like this one was unique in
Mhm.
its own way, and it wasn't, I wouldn't rope it in with the general genre.
Yeah.
And I really, really love the rebellion trope. That is one of my favorites of all
Yeah.
time to read. There's the main character, Will Hawk, who is essentially like a transporter, right? To get the people who secretly have magic still, who haven't had the suppressors, haven't been caught by the enforcers of media, and transporting them somewhere safe.
Mhm.
And I love just kind of the journey that we get to see. And at the end of the book, we get a little bonus chapter of Will in his childhood days, which was kind of a fun little sneak peek into kind of like why Will is the way that he is. And I did really, really enjoy that. I will say there were some things about this book I still really liked it, but the way I think maybe that it was marketed isn't fully how I perceive the book.
Yeah. And I feel like with that, it's so easy to, especially as an author, I feel like to an author, it could be more of a slow burn. And
For
for someone
sure.
who reads, slow, like multiple books
See,
with
and
a
that's the
slow
thing
burn.
is maybe you and I are so conditioned to slow burn being like, okay, 70% in. You know what I
Yes.
mean? For me reading
Their hands
this,
finally touch.
yes, for me reading this, I felt this was an insta love attraction.
Mhm.
Especially because by the end of it, they're married. You
Yeah.
know, by like halfway through, she almost dies when they take out the suppressor, and he says he loves her.
Mhm.
Like halfway through, and I'm like, well, I wouldn't catalog this as a slow burn, and that doesn't take away anything from the story because the story's still really good,
I do think
and
Will and
I
Mal.
love the love.
Yeah, I think that Will and Malin had a really good relationship, and like
Hmm.
I'm very much on. I can read insta love. I can
Oh
read slow
yeah,
burn. Like I feel like I can. Depending on what my mood is, I gravitate towards one or the other. Like sometimes I love a slow burn where it's like
girls same.
70% in, their hands finally touch, or it's two books down the line and they're finally realizing they have
Yeah,
together. Or I've read books where it's 20% in and they're like, okay. So it's like
yeah.
I can read everything. So I do feel like maybe for it only being one book, maybe that's why the author thought it was like a slow burn, because obviously with a single book, you can only slow burn it out so much before people are like, okay, what?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Um, Kind of where my half point gets docked is I felt that there were a lot of different things that happened
mhm.
that I felt like maybe the author could span out across more of the series. you
Yeah.
know? Like really liked in the beginning, the neighbor best friend drama with Andrew and Malin, right?
I had such a weird vibe from him from the very
From
beginning.
the get-go, but
Yes,
so
we clocked it.
yes. I was like, who is this weirdo? I was like, she doesn't know you shit, dude. Like, calm down.
And like Malin's like, I don't know, like experience and just like her internal monologue of like he's just a friend, but like I feel
She
safe with him, but
Yeah, she's
it's
like,
always
I
but.
could give it a chance, like my heart is still broken from losing my husband, which low-key theory, I think he's alive.
Ooh, okay.
I do. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know what, because it was, well, maybe not. I don't know, because her mom mentions that like he was part of the rebellion, the resistance, and died in transporting other people. But like Malin was only told that he died, while traveling. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. It just seemed so vague that there's the possibility that maybe he was alive. I don't know. I guess I'm gonna have to keep reading and find
And
out.
I also found it interesting that Callum and Will were both transporters.
I know. I'm kind of like, did they know each other?
Well, yeah, and it's like I feel like as like if I was in Malin's position, I don't know if I could be with another train. Like I don't know if I could be
Well, she
with
didn't know. She didn't know that he was.
until
Yeah, she
that's
she
true.
thought he was like a regular schmegular guy, and turns out
Unless she
that
met
like
him.
exactly. I mean, and something I also, going back to, I just felt like there was a lot going on, and that's where my half point kind of got deducted, was there was the drama with Andrew, and that was its own story. And then there was Will kind of deceiving Malin at first, trying to be like, well, I'm only trying to get you to like me so you'll leave because you guys have magic and I want you guys to be safe, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but when Malin finds out that that kind of was his intention at first, there's no real like sense of betrayal. There's like, I felt like that was such a big part at the very beginning that maybe it should have been more of an issue with Malin at first to be like,
Yeah.
well, are your feelings real? I feel a little deceived, but even as I say that, when Elwyn looks into his mind, when they first get together and she's like, who authorized you going after my daughter? And he's like, well, no one authorized me. I didn't even know she was your daughter until like 50 minutes ago,
Yeah.
But when she looks into his mind, she can see that his intentions are pure and that it is essentially right for them to be together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because Malin has a daughter. So I feel like she should have been more upset with Will coming into their lives in the beginning as like in a deceitful way.
Hmm.
Because Malin not only has to worry about herself, but also
Really, yeah. I did also really love kind of towards the end when Ellie tells Will, like, and I didn't tell my mom that you were the one who was chasing me through no man's land. And I was like, you little shit.
I
And
also
I'm like,
loved
how would Malin feel if she did find that out, right? Like,
yeah.
would there be a sense of that's creepy? Don't chase my child? Or, you know what I mean? Like, is there any sense of like, maybe that's a red flag? Maybe it's not. Let's have a conversation about it kind of thing. But like, we never got that kind of the
Resolution.
ain't. Yeah, there's no like, there was no real angst to it where I felt realistically there should have been.
Yeah.
Obviously, saying the word realistically when you're talking about a fantasy book is
It's
like,
kind of funny, right?
you know, it's like that's not real.
I also find it interesting that Will said that he didn't know who Ellie was when he first met Malin, even though he did. He had met her earlier when she was standing up to those bullies. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like I understand the reason he had to be deceitful. Like I 100% get it, but I do feel like you said I feel like there should have been more truce, more resolution to those things.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Absolutely.
cuz I love
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I love angst with my fantasy books because I feel like that is such a major plot point in a lot of fantasy books that we read is like that angst, especially when you have war and rebellion and secrets and deceit. It's like I want to see those things fleshed out, not just kind of glossed
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, I agree. And I felt like the angst was there with the cause, of
100%.
getting these people to safety from media, because media is the bad guys. Also, I love the point that the bad guy is her dad, who she's had this great relationship with her entire life. And turns out he's actually the enemy. And her mom is actually the good guy who she didn't really have a good relationship with, right? And then
Hmm.
she finds out that like Ellie and Elowen also, just notice their two names are so similar, and that's adorable. That they do have this great relationship, and that she's been teaching her how to control her magic and do it safely, you know? I really loved that kind of twist and the fact that Elowen wants to repair the relationship and she recognizes that she, should have been there her entire life in ways that, a mom should, but also recognizing the fact that it was like incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, I do think one thing this author did really well is the plot twist. Finding out that Z was actually
I know.
Will's father
Okay.
or Will's son was, I remember reading that and I was like, holy shit, that
I
makes
know. I was like, where did
sense.
that come from?
But it came out, it was so well done, I think, with like,
Yeah. And it was beautiful.
yeah, and I love how supportive Malin was. Like she
Oh,
was
yeah.
like you could like in their internal monologue, she had like that internal freak out. But she was so supportive of like, what do you want to do? Do you want to tell him? Like and Will's like, I want to do it with I was hoping I can do it with you. I want you by my side. And so I think for that too, just showing how supportive they are of each other, like that
Yeah.
added to their relationship in my eyes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I loved when Will did tell him that he was his father, that Z was like, "Well, Malin and Ellie are a family too, right? Like we get to stay with them, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, hey, actually, I'm about to ask her to marry me." I was like, "Wait.
What?
What?" And then they like right before they announce it when they're sitting down that they're going to get married, right? Elowen goes into, or she like mind talks to Malin and is like, "Yeah, I already know, because guess what? He asked for your hand." And I'm like, "Oh, I wish we got that scene."
Yes, that POV would have been so great. I think Will had his points of vulnerability, but I feel like that would have been such a beautiful scene because I feel like it
I
really
agree.
would have kind of showed how much he cared about Malin, especially because he had to think about Ellie too. And I loved that even from the beginning, Will didn't just see Malin, Will saw
Yeah.
and Ellie. It was always a pair, it wasn't just one or the other.
Yeah. I another reason why I wish we got that kind of POV, well, not really POV, but that chapter would just be to maybe understand Elowen a little bit more about,
Mhm.
what her future relationship with Malin will be like,
Yeah.
just kind of give us a glimpse into what it is that she is wanting to do moving forward to repair and essentially just have a relationship with Malin. Because right now, she only has the relationship with Ellie, and this relationship that with Malin is just so strained. So for Will to ask for, her hand in marriage, like I felt like that was an important conversation that I wish that we got.
Yeah, and I think so too, especially because Malin has to come to terms with a lot of things, like knowing that her mom was actually the good guy, her dad was the bad guy. I feel like Malin just had so many life altering revelations, kind of just
Yeah,
thrown at her in such a
yeah,
short time. Because once they get to everyone, they learn so much, and it's like I feel like she doesn't really have time to process it
oh yeah.
the way that she should be able to. Because it's like, hey, Will's not actually who you think you are or who you think he is. Oh, hey, also your dad is bad, but your mom is good. Oh, also your daughter and your mom have a relationship, but you. So it was like so
See,
many
yeah, there's
things.
so many things happening like that I felt could have been stretched more along the series,
Yeah.
and obviously like keep reading.
Mhm.
I want to know what happens next, that kind of thing. Um, it felt like a lot for one book. But that being said, the author does a really good, she's a great writer.
Yeah.
Like her descriptive storytelling, like I could picture myself as they're like weaving the streets of media,
Mhm.
I'm seeing it as a movie
Yeah.
of these like trying to get to safety, trying to hide from the guards or from the enforcers, whatever they're called. Could literally like see it in my head as I'm reading. And I think that that is such a great quality for an author to have because it's one thing to have the story and put it on paper, but it's another thing to have it so well written that it's a movie inside someone's head. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like there's a big difference between writing a story and storytelling.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
And like I think especially for fantasy realmed authors, I feel like their storytelling is almost more critiqued because
Oh,
fantasies do
yeah.
have such more complicated layers than like a typical like contemporary romance or dark romance. Like there's
Yeah.
so much more that goes into writing a fantasy because you have the world building, you have so much more than just man woman or woman and woman, man and man, couples meet,
Yeah.
here they go. There's so much more intrigue, and especially when you have like that political aspect of it, like media is the bad guy, you have the rebellion. And so being able to weave that story to the point where you can physically see it playing out in your head is
Yeah.
an incredible attribute to have as an author.
Yeah, I 1000% agree. Side note, the political like rebellion resistance. I know I said like the rebellion resistant is like my favorite, but I love the political aspects of it because everything in our country is so charged, politically charged.
Yeah.
And reading something like this where there is the political aspect of it, and you almost kind of get like a reprieve from the
Yeah.
shit show that our country is. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And you get to put yourself into a different state, really. And I think that that is like for me kind of therapeutic.
Oh, definitely. Especially because you can, like you said, you kind of can take yourself out of like the shit show that we deal with in our day-to-day lives. And like,
Hmm.
in fantasy, no matter how long it takes, the good guys always win. And so
Yeah.
like being able to like kind of have that hope and that kind of down the line, like it's going to be the good guys that prevail. Um,
Yeah.
and I love a good rebellion trope, especially in my fantasy. That's what I look for in my fantasy reads.
Yes.
I want there to be war and rebellion, and I want there to be high stakes, high angst. Like I thrive on that in my fantasy books
Yeah.
because to me, I feel like it makes for such a good story.
It really does. And, I'm excited to read this next book because, as I finish the book, I'm like, well, who's going to betray them? Because someone's got to betray them. Like it's got to be
Yeah,
someone on the boat, maybe. I don't think it's the captain, but maybe one of the mates. I don't know.
yeah.
And I'm like, tell me more. I need more.
Yeah, and I think that too with fantasy, especially like it's either hit or miss. Like I will
Yeah.
either jump full force into the fantasy and want to read the entire series, or I just don't connect to the story and then I'm like, okay, I don't want to read this. But with this one, I
Yeah.
feel like there are still some unanswered questions that I am craving the answers to, and I think that that's what makes a good book. Is yes, there was a lot thrown at us in book one, but there were still some unanswered questions that you're like, okay, I
Now
need to know
what?
what happens next. Like
I
we
need
got
more. Okay, hitting download on book two.
yes, like information download for book one, but it's also like there has to be
It
more.
sets the scene for
Yes.
the rest of the story. Like like I said, I want to know who betrays them because someone has to betray them, right?
Yeah.
Like how do they know how did the enforcers of media, whatever, how did they know exactly where they were when they were escaping, like down to the exact forest region?
Yeah.
So I'm like, there's gotta be a sneaky person or something, or maybe her dad has her tracked in some way, or I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just excited.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because that was kind of a theme throughout. Even in the beginning, Will was like, "Someone is betraying us."
Well, at first it was Andrew, right?
Yeah, but even when he was in the shipyard, remember he was like
Oh, yeah.
before us. Like there has to be someone that's giving them information, and so it's like we've always from the beginning had that kind of kernel in the back of our head is like, there's someone here who's lying. Like there's
Yeah.
someone in this story other than Andrew, unless Andrew is the same person from the beginning, but there's someone that's
Mhm.
betraying them. And I'm just like, who is it? Like, I just
I
want to
know.
know.
I know. I'm like, tell me now.
Just give me all the information.
Yeah. Overall, I would say this was a good read and a good read for me to finish out my year.
Yeah,
I appreciate when the author can set the scene so well and make me crave wanting more,
definitely.
um, which Brandy just does a wonderful job. And a huge thank you to Brandy for reaching out to us and allowing us to read and talk about her book. And this has
Yes.
been so much fun. And like I said, I'm excited to for the next one and to read
Yeah,
more by her.
definitely. I do definitely think that there's a lot more to come with this story, with this universe, with these characters. So I am definitely excited to see where it goes because, like, I have some theories, but I'm also just like, I
Yeah,
have no clue.
I
So,
know. I'm like, maybe I could predict what's going to happen. Maybe I can't though. Maybe because like I said, or we said earlier, like she did a good job with plot twists. So
Oh, definitely. So I feel like there's a lot coming in book two for sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So we are so excited to announce our next book club pick is going to be Bound to You by author MG, and it will also be an author interview. And this is her debut novel, so we are going to talk about all things writing process, her inspiration for Bound to You, and even potentially what is next for her.
I'm so excited. If you
Me too.
haven't heard anything about Bound to You, it is a contemporary office romance with BDSM aspects, daddy dom, submissive, secretary, single mom, love after loss. It's just a big road to finding love for yourself
Yeah,
as well as romantically, after losing that before. So I'm
def-
so excited. We've had the pleasure of working with MG for the past few months, and she is the best. She is such a delight, and I'm so excited to sit down, and have you guys get to know her a little more as well.
yes, I am so excited. I cannot wait. The episode will be dropping in January, so make sure you check out our Instagram and our TikToks for the official drop date. But until then, Happy New Year, sinners, and we look forward to seeing you in January.
Cheers!